Hey everyone, and welcome to Thinkful's Info Session. My name is Benjamin Schechner, and I'm one of the education advisors here at Thinkful. So my job is really talking to all the respective students about their different goals and make sure that we can find the right program for them. And so today we'll be talking about the Flexible Web Development Program. But if you have questions about the full-time program, stick around, as a lot of the information, such as the curriculum, the job placement services, and even some of the mentorship is the same between both programs. As well as at the end of the material, we also have a live Q&A session. And so I'm happy to answer any questions you may have about the flexible program, the full-time program, or even about our data science program, at the end. And so to get started, we actually have some slides just to keep, it a little bit structured. And so what that looks like is I have around 20 minutes of information, and then as I mentioned, it'll go into a live Q&A session. And during the information, my colleague Aaron will be answering questions in the live chat bar on I believe, the left-hand side. And so what will we be talking about? So we're going to talk about the bootcamp program, what it is in terms of an overview. We'll talk a little bit about the one-on-one mentorship and how that's really unique to Thinkful. We'll talk about our full-stack JavaScript-based curriculum, front-end and back-end technologies, as well as computer science concepts. We'll actually walk through the flexible program and give you a tour of the dashboard and what that looks like. And then as well, we'll talk about the ever-important career and job placement services, really there to help you transition into that developer role. And then lastly, we'll talk about scholarships and financing. And so, to get started, what is a boot camp? A boot camp program is really a program designed to teach students who have little to no experience with programming. Maybe they know a little bit of Code Academy, maybe they've been on free code camp, but they're really looking to level up their skills and become that employed developer. And so what's unique about Thinkful is that you have one-on-one mentorship, we have this full stack JavaScript-based curriculum, as well as the program comes with career and job placement services. And we've been pretty successful so far with a 93% job placement rate. And on the right-hand side, you really see a map of students from all around the country and really all across the world that are enrolled in our flexible program. And as I mentioned, as an education advisor, I talk to most, if not all of them, about their backgrounds, their goals, what they're looking to do. And, so some people are master's students, some students have not gone to college, they completed high school. Some students have just completed high school, or some students have just completed college. As well as some students are maybe mid-career professionals who are looking to make a career change. And again, one thing that really unites them across all their different backgrounds is that they have little to no experience with programming, and they're really looking to, again, make that transition into the developer role. And that's where the flexible program can come in. And so the flexible program is a 6-month program designed for working professionals who are looking to make a career change. And so what that looks like in the flexible program, each student is working one-on-one with a mentor 3 times a week in a one-on-one setting for an hour long each session. And, again, this program is really structured around a student's schedule. So those one-on-one mentoring sessions can be scheduled on weekdays, weekday nights, and even weekends. And, in terms of additional support, what that looks like is besides those one-on-one mentoring sessions, you also have this feature called Q&A sessions. And Q&A sessions are most similar to office hours in college. And what that looks like is we have mentors waiting in virtual classrooms, waiting for students to pop in and ask questions. And as we have mentors all around the world and on all different time zones, we really are able to offer these Q&A sessions throughout each day and throughout the entire week. There's over 35 plus hours of Q&A sessions every week. And in addition to that, you also have access to the Slack community. And Slack is an instant messaging platform used to build communities. And as a result, you really have the ability to always reach out to different mentors and different students all across the world to make sure you always have that support. And in addition to that, you also have a program manager. And your program manager is really designed to be there for your success. And so it's really this all-around guidance counselor who's there to help, give you support. Maybe you need to talk about your mentor. Maybe you had a rough day. Maybe, you had a great day. And really what happens is they actually touch base with you every week to make sure everything's going well. They'll ask for a weekly reflection where you talk about, what you learned this week, what, you might need to review, and, any feedback that you have. That way we can continually improve and make sure that your experience is, continually positive. And in our program, what happens is students are learning that full stack JavaScript curriculum. And what that means is that, students are learning front-end and back-end technologies as well as computer science concepts. And so what students are learning is HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and jQuery, as well as React and Redux, as well as, for backend, Node.js, MongoDB, and Express. And in addition to that, students in our program are also learning computer science concepts, such as big O notation, hash maps, linked lists, binary sort, algorithms, data structures. Again, all these different concepts that we know are part of the interviewing process. And, I typically get one question I typically get when talking with prospective students is, why do you guys teach a JavaScript curriculum? All these different programs are teaching all these different languages. Why do you guys teach JavaScript? And there are two main reasons. So the first has to do with ease of learning. So in our program, when students are learning front end and they're also learning back end, we want to make sure that students are able to focus really on the concepts. They're not focusing on the little syntax differences between maybe different languages on front end and back end, but instead, they can really focus on those concepts. When they're on the back end, what is it like to create a database, a schema, use API calls, and create those calls, using CRUD operations. While on the front end, they can really focus on what's it like to actually make those calls and receive information. And then the second reason is really due to job market readiness. So we're constantly hearing from our mentors as well as from our career coaches that JavaScript is the language that's in demand. And besides me just kind of saying that, there actually is data to support it. And so every year Stack Overflow does a study. And it's a survey really trying to take a snapshot of the industry, what are the latest technologies, really trying to figure out where they're coming from, where developers are coming from, and how long they've been in the industry. And in 2017, they interviewed over 64,000 developers and asked them all these different questions. And so they have all this different data about where students are coming from and where developers, how long they've been in the industry, but what's important is, what technologies are they using? And as you can see in these results, over 62.5% are using JavaScript, while only 9.1% are using Ruby. And so as a result, it makes sense that we really are teaching, this JavaScript curriculum to make sure that you really are able to learn these different technologies and be job ready, not just for that first job, but really for that entire career in the industry. And in our program, we have this project-based approach. And so what that means is that we have students, students are introduced to different concepts. They then will apply them using small projects, which culminate in these entirely student-led capstone projects. And really, to show you what that looks like, we can just take a look at the dashboard. And so what you're seeing on the screen is actually the student dashboard. And what that looks like is, at the top you have the navigation bar, you have goals, and you have Q&A sessions, which I'll actually show you in a second. And then on the right-hand side, you actually have your mentorship sidebar, where you have your different ways to communicate with your mentor, such as email, Slack, and video. And then you also have access to all the different curriculum, such as overview, front-end, back-end, front-end frameworks, and computer science concepts. And so just to jump in to that front end, so you can take a look at what it looks like, and really talk about what that project-based approach looks like. And so as you can see in our program, we have a structured approach. And what that means is that, our lessons are organized into units, then there's lessons, and then there's topics underneath it. And so really what happens is that students, again, start with this text-based curriculum where they're introduced to different concepts. And then there actually are interactive drills built right into the curriculum, where you can really test your understanding of the different concepts. So for example, when I type background color blue, it actually will make that happen. And so I immediately get feedback about what I'm typing and really understanding what it looks like. And then these types of drills will build into these small projects designed really to allow students to apply what they've learned. So for example, on this sign-up page challenge, students are really applying the display, position, and float properties that they just learned. And so in all of our challenges, you get a real-life situation where you really have that ability to see how you would apply these different skills. So for example, in this sign-up page one, what you happen is, you have a client who wants to have clean SEO and semantic-friendly HTML. And similar to real freelancing clients, they also have the logo, they want the email and password fields to be required, and all these other requirements. And additionally, you have a static image that you got from the client that you want to turn into an actual web page. And so again, using display, position, and flow properties, you then would actually apply these different skills to really test your understanding. And then you would submit it using GitHub. And GitHub really is this collaborative tool that is used in the industry. And it's also a great way to start sharing and saving your portfolio. That way, when you're done with the program, you have this entirely unique portfolio that you can show. And in addition to that, after building these small projects, they culminate in the end of these capstone projects that are entirely student-led. And so these capstone projects, again, are really your chance to apply what you've learned by building. There is no template, there is no answer key, so therefore you really have that ability to build something from scratch. And so in this front-end capstone project, what happens is, we have some requirements such as must have clean UX, must have clean third-party API, and must use responsive design. But in terms of what that actually looks like, it is entirely student-led. And so as a result, you have the ability to really, again, build your own ideas. If you've been working on something on the side and you've been really wanting to prototype it, you can. And so just to show you, I guess, what some of these different portfolios look like, I guess, we can start, and you'll notice that, again, as they all are entirely unique, their aesthetics are completely different. So this is Jason's portfolio. He graduated and is based in LA. And so, he wanted to focus more on this aesthetic, on black and white, and you can see his different projects here. And so, for example, his front-end capstone project was actually called My Etsy Neighborhood, and what it uses is Google Maps and Etsy's API to really place different Etsy stores in your area. And as you can see, these are just some of his different projects that he's created. And then, we can go to Ben's portfolio. So Ben, is really into hiking and the outdoors. And so as a result, he kind of went with a more earthy type of rock color portfolio. And so, for example, his first project was actually about doing breweries and checking them off as he went on brewery tours around the area. He also had one where he liked to talk about photography and where the best times they had different shots. And so, you can see that these are actually completely different portfolios and different aesthetics. And then just to show you, a third person's, we can look at Tim's. So Tim is more interested in education technologies. And so as a result, he actually is really interested in doing different technologies. For example, I really like talking about this one that's a student management system. And so basically this was his idea of, when you have different students in a classroom, how can you manage all their different needs all in one place? And so he actually created this idea entirely from scratch. And so as you can see, again, these projects are entirely different, and also the aesthetics are, again, entirely different. And so I guess as a thank you for students, who are here today in this info session, we actually have this 2-week trial. And what that looks like is, you would enroll in the program for $50. You then would have 6 one-on-one mentoring sessions over those 2 weeks, as well as unlimited access to all of our Q&A sessions. That way you can really try out our program. And after those 2 weeks, you have that option to continue into the actual program. Or if you decide, this is not for me, you're more than able to opt out of it as well. And it really is just a great way to, continue learning. You'll start on our HTML and CSS units. Therefore, you really start at those foundations and really have that ability to keep learning. And, and I guess, the next question that usually I get on calls is, it's been great that we've been learning all these different information. I now have this great portfolio, but how do I actually get a job? I'm doing this to make a transition. How do I get there? And that's where our career and job placement services come in. So in our program, each student is working one-on-one with a career coach throughout the entire program and for up to 6 months afterward. And what that looks like is, while in the program, you're doing resume reviews, portfolio reviews, and 5 technical mock interviews. And then after the program, you continue to work with your career coach to polish those applications, and we can even make introductions on your behalf. And what that looks like, and we're happy to introduce you to different employers based on your specific goals. And so, this work you do with your career coach is, again, entirely personalized. And what I mean by that is, you'll talk with your career coach about what your goals are. You'll talk about, what types of cities and what types of companies. Are you looking for more stability, maybe a big corporation? Or maybe you're looking for, a small startup, with that more freedom in your role. Or maybe you're not looking for any of those and you're looking actually for freelancing. And this is the conversations you're having with your career coach to make sure that we really can, guide you in that transition. And additionally, after the program, you also have unlimited access to mock technical interviews. And what that means is that, let's say you had an interview coming up in 2 days on React and Redux, just 2 front-end frameworks that you'd learn in our program. What you could actually do is you could say, talk to your career coach and say, I have this interview coming up, and we're more than happy to set you up with a mentor to maybe review those topics, or maybe to just do another mock interview. That way you really can knock them dead at your interview. And so in terms of what our success looks like, we actually believe in complete transparency. So we actually publish all of our graduation data in the form of a jobs report, which comes out every month in the form of an audited report. And in this report, you have information such as our placement rates, you're gonna have the number of graduates. You also have our job titles of our graduates. And this is really important simply because we know students are going through this program not just for to be hired by their program or to become a TA, but really to make that transition into an actual developer job. And so you can see our exact breakdown of what our graduates look like. And again, when talking with students, I actually encourage them to get curious. Ask questions when looking at different programs about the data. If a program is not able to provide that data, ask why. Are they not tracking it, which might be problematic in its own right, or maybe, it's not good and then they don't want to provide it. And that's really a problem. And so again, when looking at different programs, absolutely ask for data. And also ask, is it verified? Is it verified by a third party? Is it produced, are they a member of SIR, that standard body of different bootcamp results? And then in addition to that, in terms of our results, we also have a job placement guarantee. And what that states is that if you put in the effort, if you grow your network and conduct a thorough job search, you'll become a developer within 6 months. Or we'll refund 100% of your tuition. And I know a lot of programs also have guarantees, so again, I encourage students to get curious. Ask questions about what they need to do in order to qualify for that guarantee. Do they need, I was talking on the phone with a student earlier today who mentioned that in order to qualify for a guarantee, they had to respond to every email from that program within 20 minutes. And frankly, when you're working a full-time job and also doing, this program, it's hard to respond to emails within 20 minutes. And so that's frankly just not fair. And so here at Thinkful, again, as we are really believing in transparency. We have our what you need to qualify. You must be at least 21 years old. You must be legally able to work in the U.S. or Canada. You must be proficient in spoken and written English. And you must live in or within commuting distance of 28 cities in the U.S. and Canada. And this last one's important. If you live in an area where there aren't jobs, we can't find you a job. And so as a result, we want to make sure that students are living within, commuting distance of these big centers. Well, at the same time, on that list of 28 cities, we do cover the big cities like, the San Franciscos, the Austins, the New Yorks. But as well, we also cover different smaller cities that you might not traditionally think of as tech centers, like Salt Lake City or Tampa. Or, we even cover different cities like Detroit. And, additionally as well, our in our jobs report, we do have a 93% job placement rate. And additionally, in our jobs report, what we also have is, you can see information about where graduates are from. And so you'll see, here it is, you'll see that we have graduates from areas all around the country, and some are not within commuting distance of these big cities. And they still are included within our 93% job placement rate. So all of our students, regardless of guarantee status, receive the same high level of career and job placement services, the 5 technical mock interviews, one-on-one career coaches, introductions on their behalf, regardless of guarantee status. And, the last thing we should talk about would be, the pricing for the program before we get to those, those live Q&A sessions. And so what that looks like is for the flexible program, we do have different payment plans and different financing options for the program. And so what that looks like is in our most popular plan is the month-to-month one, where students are paying $1,500 per month. And assuming they finish in 6 months, the total cost is $9,000. And as well, in terms of financing, our most popular plan is the one through the third-party loan provider named Skills Fund, where students make an initial down payment of $250, and then they make monthly payments of $290, starting in their second month for 36 months. And, I know that I went over my 20-minute mark, and I do want to get to that live Q&A session. So what I want to do is just, put up my email. That way, if anyone has to step out to go back to work or step out for lunch, dinner, you can always email me. I'm always happy to answer any questions on email or jump on another call. And then one last time, I want to just quickly talk about, that 2-week trial, where you have that ability to really try out our program for 2 weeks for $50, where you have the ability to enroll in the program, you gain access to the curriculum, the platform, and you also will schedule an onboarding call with your program manager. And then you also will have 6 one-on-one mentoring sessions and have unlimited access to the Q&A sessions. And as I mentioned, we have these Q&A sessions throughout each day and throughout the entire week. And so I guess just to quickly, show you what that looks like, on the screen are actually the different Q&A sessions. And you just got here through the student dashboard by clicking on QA sessions. And as you can see, these are all the Q&A sessions that are happening today. As you can see, there's over, I believe, I counted 10. So there's at least 10 different Q&A sessions, and that's just today. And now we're on to Friday, and as again, you can see that they're scheduled throughout each day, therefore it can really work for your schedule. And with that, let's get to the live Q&A sessions. And please feel free to post them on the chat box, which might be over here. And my colleague Aaron will send it to me, and I'll answer it. So this next question, or the first question, is from Michael Jeffries. And it says, who uses our capstone projects and who sees them? Yeah, so your capstone projects are, again, entirely student-led. So you build them throughout our program. That way, when you end the program, you have this entirely unique portfolio. And they're actually stored, on the web. Therefore, you can actually show it to friends, families, but perhaps most importantly, you can actually show it to employers. And so really, the first thing you do when applying for a position is you actually would submit your portfolio. And that's really what they would look at. They then would, if they find it interesting and unique, then they would give you a call and say, can you just walk me through, why did you create this dinner app that basically stores recipes? And just really kind of walk through that. And then after that, you then would have a whiteboarding and coding interview that you'd have in person, where you'd actually be asked to code using a whiteboard marker as part of the interview process. This next question is also from Michael, and it says, how do mentors help when it comes to building the projects? Absolutely. So really what that looks like is, again, in the program, each student is working one-on-one with a mentor 3 times a week for an hour long each session. And these mentoring sessions can be scheduled entirely around your work schedule, including weekdays and weekday nights. And what I can do is kind of talk about what a mentoring session looks like. So the mentoring sessions are purposefully left unstructured. That way you can use the time in whatever way is best for your learning style. So some students use the time to ask specific questions they have when going through the curriculum, while other students also might use the time to ask more about that career path and that whole career trajectory. And then third types of students will actually ask about feedback, code reviews or design reviews of their capstone projects. And as our mentors are working professionals in the field with an average of 10 years of experience, they do know the latest tips and tricks to make sure that your projects do stand out. And this next question is from Shajad, and it says, I work in a BA role currently and looking to learn new technologies. I don't have much knowledge in development. Can this help me? And the answer is yes. So it also looks like I can combine this question actually with the next question from Rodolfo, and it says, do you have to take a test before being admitted or have some type of knowledge with web development prior to joining? So absolutely. So our flexible program is specifically designed for students who have little to no experience with programming. And what I mean by that is that the first lesson is actually what is programming on a high level, and the second is downloading your first text editor. So it assumes that you don't have any experience with programming, and the reason we do that is simply because that way, when we are writing our own curriculum, we can really get into this mindset of, this is a student who might not understand these concepts, and we want to really be able to break it down into chunks that students can understand. That being said, if you do have access, or if you do have an understanding of certain concepts, the way our curriculum is set up is that you have the ability to kind of breeze through the sections that you already know in order to focus on the ones that are new. So for example, if you know what a div is, if you know what an anchor tag is, an H1 header, absolutely skip that section. And therefore you can really ramp up to where you need to be. So no prior experience is required for the flexible program. So this other question is from Adolfo, and it's, is it more difficult being an 18-year-old? I saw how it said in the fine print of the guarantee that you must be at least 21 years old. If I were to go through the course and graduate at 19, would it be more difficult landing a job compared to an older individual? And just to be, again, transparent, the answer is yes. It would be a little bit more difficult if you were under the age of 21. And that's simply because of the labor laws. Well, it depends where you're looking. But I would say because in the US, certain companies follow strict US labor laws, which says that employers need to hire over a certain age for full-time employment. That being said, there are still a lot of opportunities for freelancing, as well as a lot of opportunities also at different startups where they might not necessarily care about these different rules and are always looking to hire different talented individuals. And so this next question came from email, and it's from Mary, and it says, can you explain a little bit more about the difference between the full-time program and the flexible one? Absolutely. So what that looks like is in the full-time program, students are working every day from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. And what that looks like is, each hour of the day is heavily structured, where you're working, there's an instructor-led workshop, there are TAs, and you're working at a fully immersive pace of around 50 to 60 hours per week. While in the flexible program, it more is designed around a student's schedule. So as a result, again, you are able to shape your mentoring sessions around your schedule, including weekdays, weekday nights, and weekends. And these mentoring sessions are your only pre-scheduled events every week. And students in the flexible program are putting in around 20 to 25 hours per week to finish in 6 months. And in addition to that, between both programs, they have the same full stack JavaScript curriculum, as well as in both programs, they also have the same one-on-one career support throughout the entire program and for up to 6 months afterward. The real main difference between the programs comes down to the structure. And again, it's that meeting every day, while the flexible is more designed for students who need to maintain maybe their current position, they need to maintain a source of income, their caregiver status, whatever it may be. So this next question is from Michael, and it says, what happens if I want to build an app for a company I want to start? So you absolutely could. In our program, as you have this entirely project-based approach, these capstone projects are entirely student-led. So as a result, if you want to have an idea that you've been working on, you've been trying to prototype, you're more than welcome to actually build it. You can absolutely bring it to life, prototype it. That is your property and your idea, and you can absolutely use it. This next question actually came from email, and it's from Jessica, and I'm interested in that 2-week trial, but I might want to start later this week instead of tomorrow. What can I do? And the answer is, so when you enroll in the 2-week trial, what you actually do is you create a Thinkful account with some personal information, as well as click enroll. You then gain access to the curriculum, to the platform, and you also will be prompted to schedule an onboarding call with your program manager. And during that onboarding call, you'll talk about your goals in the program, walk through the platform, and all the different, support resources that are embedded in the program and platform. And then what happens is, then you would start to be matched to work one-on-one with your mentor. And your official 2 weeks begins on your one-on-one session. And so if you need to push it back a week, that's something you could just absolutely mention to your program manager and say, look, I'm actually looking to start, in 2 weeks. And, and I should also mention that, this 2-week trial offer does unfortunately expire on Saturday night. And so as a result, to take advantage of this 2-week trial, you need to enroll in the program before Saturday. I'm going to make, I know we've been over 30 minutes and I want to make sure that everyone can, get back to dinner or get back to their work. So I'm going to do a last call for questions. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to pass them to my colleague, Erin. Maybe over there. So I just got an email from Varun, and it says, I understand one-on-one mentorship is important. Can you talk a little bit more about how students are matched with a mentor? Absolutely. So in our program, one of the first things you do is you fill out a student profile. And on the student profile, you're going to put information such as your goals in the program, your expectations, as well as the types of companies you might be working or looking for afterward. Are you looking for a big corporation? Are you looking for a small startup? And based on that and your availability, that's how you're matched to work with a mentor. So if you said, I'm looking for a small startup, then what we can do is we can actually match you maybe with a CTO who can provide that experience of what that looks like. And then, as well, we understand that sometimes a mentor's teaching style and a student's learning style just do not align. And so as a result, we have a really straightforward mentor match or rematch process. And what that looks like is you can just reach out to me, or you can reach out to my support team, support@thinkful.com, and say, hey, I need a new mentor. and we're happy to rematch you, no questions asked. Okay, so this will be, I guess, our last question. And I also got it from email, and it's from Teresa. And it says, I'm really interested in working at one of those big tech corporations like a Facebook or Google. Will I be prepared? And the answer is yes. So in our program, you are learning, again, that full stack, front end and back end technologies, as well as computer science concepts that we know are heavily tested during that interview process. You'll be learning, again, big O notation, hash maps, linked lists, data structures, algorithms, binary sort, again, everything that you need to know in order to really excel during those interviews. And as well, in our program, you have those 5 technical mock interviews. And during those mock interviews, what happens is we actually will provide you with a mock company, a mock description, and go through the entire process. Therefore, you really have that experience of finding a job posting, applying to it, and then going to the interview. And at the end of each of those mock technical interviews, you receive feedback. So therefore, you constantly are able to continually improve. Maybe you get the areas where you need a little work, well, also you might get some areas where you're doing perfectly fine. And, as we are, that was our last question. I just wanted to, again, put up my email. And if anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to answer any questions via email or, again, jump on another call. And, as well, I just want to reiterate one last time that 2-week trial where you have the ability to really try out a program for 2 weeks for $50, and there is no commitment. So if you decide after those 2 weeks that this is not, a good fit for you, no harm, no foul. You just would simply tell your program manager, this is not going to work. And that's totally okay. And I should also just, again, reiterate that the 2-week trial does unfortunately expire this Saturday. And so to take advantage of that, you would click to enroll in that 2-week trial link, and then you would schedule that onboarding call with your program manager. And, with that, again, thank you guys so much for attending, and talk soon. Bye, guys.